phenomenal shot. I believe it was a 5-iron. A couple things you'll notice here is the shortness of that swing, how firm it was, and yet how everything matched up beautifully. Great golf shot.
And he made the putt to win by 1.
Yes, he did. And Phil probably knew he was going to make the putt.
Like everybody else.
This is the Players' Championship, the 10th hole on Sunday. This is a beautiful golf swing. I think it's a 7-iron shot. I want you to watch how under control he is here. Once again, the length of the swing. Perfect balance. This shot went right over the top of the flag, spun back to a position even you could make this putt.
Yeah, and maybe with a second chance.
You can make that one. I'm giving you that one.
Thanks, Butch.
This is one of the best shots of the week at Augusta. A beautiful shot down the hill, slight little draw. Once again, watch how everything matches up. That's the key. Unwind of the body, release of the arms, arms in front of the body, perfect balance, little draw, takes the right to left spin, almost goes in the hole.
The beauty of the flow is because of the correctness of the sequence, is that right?
Yes, and the position at the top is a position you feel comfortable in, and you know you get your arms in front of your body to match up. This was a drive of drives here. This was the 72nd hole at Augusta. This drive was about 340 yards, which may have prompted them to move the tee back 60 yards, because I understand they've done that. Once again, perfect balance, everything matched up beautifully. The reason I keep saying that is you were going to show some other pictures of where this doesn't happen. I'm going to explain to you the difference. This is the 5th hole, par 5, this year at Memorial. This is a 2-iron shot, I believe, 240 yards. It said 3, but I believe he hit it 2.
And it was 249 actually also.
Once again, watch the shortness of that. Never really got to parallel. Arms, putt shaft, body in perfect sequence as it comes down, a perfect shot.
When you two are working together on his golf swing and you're in one of these peaks, period, what do you do to maintain it when it's already working?
Well, the key is to understand the positions you're in. Know the positions you're in, how you get there, and you try and continually do that. For a person like myself, and I've said this to you before, the days of me teaching Tiger Woods anything are really long gone. Tiger Woods is a great student of the game. He understands his golf swing and what he's trying to do. My job is really to be his eyes, to stand outside of his body. I know the positions he's trying to create where he plays his best. Yes, you're in that position. No, you're not. This is what you're doing not to get there. This is what you need to do, how to get there. He doesn't need anyone telling him what to do, really, in reality. He understands the golf swing. He just wants you to check his positions for him.
When he's having a valley, and we'll look at that in a moment, how much of our perception of... As promised, let's start with the swing of Justin Leonard. Show us what the keys are, and perhaps when we come back, we'll tell everybody what they should look for in their own game if they are built as Justin is.
Perfect.
Let's take a look.
Well, first of all, Justin Leonard is small in stature, but yet hits the ball good ways. If you look at Justin's posture, he's a little straight in the legs, doesn't have a lot of knee bend, just a little bit of knee bend. This is because he's not very tall to start with. Second of all, if you watch Justin take the club to the top, he tries to get a little early wrist set. He used to overswing the club a lot. He doesn't do that anymore, so he's got to cock his wrist a little earlier. Doesn't go past parallel, but look at how upright this swing is. That's a good upright plane for a short person. The one thing you have to understand as a short person, you don't want to swing that club flat, because then you're going to have no angles back to the ball. If we watch Justin come back down to this ball, he has beautiful footwork, very quiet in the lower body, swinging within himself, not trying to generate distance he doesn't have. Beautiful impact position. If we notice how quiet the feet are, and yet the hips are turned all the way around. We can see both pockets of his pants. Nice square position, good extension from here of the right arm down the target line. And the one thing I want you to notice, everyone thinks Justin Leonard has this kind of strange follow-through. Well, it's just a reaction as he goes through. He's in a perfect follow-through position here. Then he just lets his arms kind of relax and collapse, and that's why he gets into that position. Nice spine tilt, still a nice tilt in his spine. So what we've seen is we've seen a guy built a lot like you and I, probably in a lot better shape than you and I, but he's tried to get the most out of his swing. We saw the little bit of an early wrist set where he lets the wrist cock just a little earlier going back so that he can have a little something to hit with. Justin used to overswing a lot, if you remember. He was very long at the top, which is normal for a shorter person and a slightly built person, because what happens is you're trying to generate speed. What he's done, and what we should do for those of us in our body type, depending on your flexibility, is let your wrist hinge just a little at the start. When your left arm's parallel to the ground, this shaft angle should be more this way. You don't want to feel like this shaft is here, nor do you want to feel like you've taken this club behind you. This creates a flat arc. We're not very tall, so we're going to try and get the best arc we can get. We're going to try and get our left arm up in a little better position here so we can get our arms in front of our body better. Quiet footwork, let the body unwind, hands and arms come into the club and ball meet, good shot.
Happiness always. Now, unfortunately for Frank in Massachusetts, he happens to be built like us, and he's got a problem with his golf swing that he's going to tell us about. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Butch, how you doing?
Hi, Frank, how are you?
Great. I did the 3-day school with you back in March, and just wanted to say that
good.
it helped tremendously. It was unbelievable experience. But I'm still struggling a bit in that, especially off the tee, I tend to slide through the ball and get my head in front of the ball, which causes me to hit kind of a block fade to the right. And was wondering if there was anything that you could recommend or any drills I could do to try and keep my head behind the ball more, just so I'm not pushing it off to the right.
Peter, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear a word Frank was saying.
Okay, Frank is getting ahead of the ball, particularly with his upper body and his head, and the ball's going to the right because the club face is never getting square. What can he do to fix it?
Okay, Frank, what you have to do is you have to get yourself and make sure that on your backswing that you're allowing your head to get behind your ball. In other words, if you're shoving the ball to the right because you feel you're in front of this shot, what you need to do is make sure you get behind the ball on the backswing. Always remember to let your weight go in the direction that the club head's going. As your club head goes to the back, your weight goes to the inside part of your right leg, then you can come back down, because you can't stay behind something you don't get behind. The next thing I would tell you, on your downswing, don't be so aggressive with your hips and your feet. Try and get your arms in front of your body more. That way your hands and arms can release. Almost feel like an impact that you're in a flat-footed position this way, and your arms pass and your body follows. If you're losing that shot to the right, your lower body's outrunning your arms, head getting in front, and you can't ever catch up. Quiet your footwork down, feel like you speed your arms up, you get that ball out of right field.
When can players who are our size feel like there's a time that it's okay to move this as quick as possible as you started your swing back towards a target?
Well, it's a sequence, Peter. What happens if you make a proper backswing, and this is an important thing too, if you're going to try and work on lower body rotation, you have to make sure you've made a proper backswing. The proper backswing is let yourself turn behind the ball, let your weight get to the inside part of this right foot, and as you come down, the first motion is a weight transfer back to the left. That's the unwinding of the left hip, left knee, which lets your arms get in front of your body, and then everything naturally goes together. What happens is a lot of people tend to hang on their left side and then spin like that, moving their hips fast. They'll get no hit at all. You laugh because you've done that.
I would never make a swing like that. When we come back,
the handle of the club swings first, like this, and they spin the whole backswing trying to catch up. What you want to feel is that this club head goes first. Club head starts to move just before the hands do, very similar to a waggle. You waggle a golf club like this. Well, your waggle is nothing more than your backswing with a little turn in it. So if you can get in the habit of letting the club head go first, you'll get a nice wrist cock as you take this club back, and then you won't struggle by starting this way and at some point in time having to change over at the top.
some of us who try to start the club head away make mistakes where we let our hands start to roll and have trouble keeping it on our ideal plane. How do you address that for us?
Good point. I would have you take a club and put it on the ground when you practice, pretty much behind the golf ball like this, straight back, and realize that if you make a proper wrist cock, your club's actually going to start right on that shaft this way. If you take the club too much to the inside, that's not going to happen. So what you're trying to do is let your club, it feels like you're going outside, but you know that this is straight back. You start this right on this shaft, your turn then takes you in, and you go to the top of your swing. It'll help you tremendously.
And that keeps you from being handsy, and that's the checkpoint.
Well, it keeps you from taking the club way around on the inside or way up on the outside, because you've got a visual of how you're trying to start this club just this way.
We come back, we'll start to take everybody's calls in just a moment.
And would you have a drill to get into the correct posture?
Sure, Wayne. The first thing I would tell you is you can give yourself a nice width in your stance, a nice flex in your knees, and just take your hands and push your hips back a little. You'll see that your rear end will go up and out a little, your chest will stick out a little more, and your spine angle will be very straight. So if you just stood tall, just got a nice little flex in your knees, just take your hands, push your hips in a little, you'll see your chest go out. This puts you in a nice position. Another thing you can do when you get in this good position is you can take this club and put it against your back on your spine, and you can feel this position. What happens a lot of times with posture is you get yourself all slumped over, your shoulders get slumped in, your chin gets down on your chest, and you're actually in your own way trying to make a swing. So get yourself where you feel like you push your rear end up and out with a nice flex in your legs. You're trying to get in an athletic position, ready to respond. And then from here, just swing within yourself. Good posture leads to good golf shots.
In just a moment, we will be back to take your calls.
Or over parallel, or what is your idea on that?
Okay, when in reality, a lot of it depends on your flexibility. A lot of it depends on your takeaway. You'll see a guy like John Daly who swings way past parallel and still hits the ball good, and then you have a guy like Jeff Sluman who doesn't get to parallel. I think the important thing on your takeaway is if you get your wrist cock in there a little earlier, in other words, you get a little earlier wrist set, you're not going to have to swing as long. You've created a better leverage. The reason this works good, because you can keep your right hand, if you're a right-handed player, away from your head. You keep this out away from your head, it's easier to get your arms in front of your body on the way down. If you swing past parallel without being double jointed or something in this thumb or your wrist, everything is breaking down here. Now your hands are in close to your head when you come down, and you've got to throw this club at the golf ball. So the big key, I would think, is a little wrist set it off the ball, and then feel like your hands are as far away from your head as they get. If you get to parallel, that's fine. If you don't, you've made enough wrist cock to allow you to have something to hit the ball with.
But if you get that early wrist set and you're making a good turn, your body doesn't really want to go to parallel, does it?
No, it doesn't. And people get in trouble by trying to make what they call, a one-piece takeaway. This type of thing. And what you see when you get to here, the only place you can go is in from there. I'd rather see you take, if you want to, exaggerate this a little, feel like your wrists hinge more this way, and then don't do anything but just turn your shoulders. If we did it in a drill, if I told you to tee up some balls, pick your wrist straight up like that, turn your shoulders, you'd be in a perfect position every time. And that's the feeling of letting the club head go first, a little wrist cock, and a nice turn sets you in a good position at the top.
Let's find out what Roger in Texas wants to kick around with us. How are you tonight, sir?
Great. How are you guys doing?
Very
Hi,
well,
Roger.
thanks.
Good. Thanks for talking.
We need to work on a routine of saying hello back, because we keep
Roger's
stepping on
fine.
each other.
That's okay.
No, we're not fine. He's fine.
Basically, I'm kind of, you're talking about different body styles, and I'm basically a short, fat guy.
Okay?
About 5'11", about 290. But
290.
yeah,
Is that with your golf shoes on?
but what I've done lately is I've widened my stance a little bit, and I'm hitting the ball very, very well, making good ball contact. But by doing that, I've lost quite a bit of distance. And I was wondering, is there anything I can do? I would think that a bigger body would have more leverage or more, something like that. Is there anything I can do to get that distance back?
Well, first of all, Roger, one of the reasons widening your stance helps you if you take a setup is that if this was my normal setup, this is where my head is right here. By widening the stance, the head automatically drops behind the ball. That helps you get behind your ball before you start, and that's good because at your height and your weight, you're not going to be as flexible as a thinner person. So what happens, because of the bulk of your body, you don't get to make as good a turn. What you have to watch out for by turning is you don't want your hips and shoulders to turn the same amount. So I would have you really practice an early wrist set. That way, because you don't swing as long as other people and you don't turn as much, it gives you a lot more to hit with coming down. It's the same theory of driving a nail. We can't get any power driving a nail this way. We can get a lot of power driving a nail like this. Well, if the ball is the nail, we can't get any hit going this way. So if we can get an earlier wrist set and then just turn to the best of your ability and then unwind back into it, that's going to help you get a lot more solid contact.
Now let's try this again. We've got Steve in Ohio. How are you, Steve?
Hi, Butch. I would like to know what Tiger's pre-shot routine is and what it accomplishes.
Well, Tiger Woods is a great believer in seeing his shots in pictures. He learned this from his dad, Earl. Taught him at a very young age that when he stands behind the ball like this, he's actually visualizing this shot. He's actually seeing this shot where it's going to go. He can see the ball going there. He can see the shape of it. That's what he's looking at when he gets there. His dad taught him how to do this at a very young age, and he does it beautifully. He sees everything in pictures, and then he comes up and he tries to create that picture.
And then when he gets over the golf ball and he's getting a sense of the shot, is he seeing again going to the movies? Is he doing that again when he's doing his little waggle and getting a flavor?
Well, I've never really asked him about that. We've talked about what he sees before it happens. When he gets over the ball, I imagine he's just thinking about putting it right where he's seeing it, is the only thing I can say. I've never really asked him that question. That's a good one.
We'll take a short break and we'll tell everybody where to find you. If you want to work with Butch Harmon and his incredible staff, the Butch Harmon School of Golf in Henderson, Nevada, and in our Lucaya in the Grand Bahama Islands, 888-2SECO or 702-777-2444, or log on to butchharmon.com if you want to order Butch's videos. Harmon.
Your stance a little. Next thing you want to do is lower your center of gravity a little. By lowering your center of gravity, it's going to let you get on top of this shot better. The keys that you do coming into it, and you have to be pretty strong to do this, Brian, because you've got to have a strong left wrist because we've got to get a bowed position of this left wrist at impact. So you've got to have strong forearms, strong wrists to get to this position. Swing-wise, what I would have you do is feel like you're going to cover this ball more with your right side as you come down. A little taller with your right side, almost feel like your head's a little bit in front of it. And as you get tall with your right side, good extension of your right arm after impact. You're bowed here, you extend through and let your weight go through. The big key is when you move the ball back in your stance like this, you've got to make sure you finish your turn going back and then really feel like you stay tall with your right shoulder, with your right hip. What I call nose in front of the ball just a little, and then just go ahead and go through. The low stinger. It's a fun shot. If you'll practice it, it'll really help your game.
You just talked about your normal ball position. How do we find our normal ball position?
Well, everyone's different. To generalize, Peter, I like a constant ball position. In other words, I don't like to see people playing 9-iron and wedges from way back here and their driver from way back here, because what happens, the more you move the ball back in your stance, the more closed your shoulders get. The more closed your shoulders get, the more you'll take the ball on the inside. The more you move it up in your stance, the more open your shoulders are at address. You lose this much turn going back, and you open up that much sooner coming through. I'd really like you to play with pretty much a constant ball position, just right in the area of the logo on your shirt, right here by my Nike swoosh. This would be my normal position right here. And if I was playing a wedge shot, it would look like this. If I was playing a driver, my right foot would just extend back. That way we pretty much get in the same setup every time.
And you're looking at the ball from the same field of vision each time.
Exactly.
Let's check in with Don in Hawaii. How are you, sir?
Hi, aloha from Hawaii.
Hey, Don, how are you?
Nice
I'm
to see
fine.
you, Don.
I suppose I have a mental question here. On the practice range, and even on my practice swings, I can get that Freddie Couples feel. But when it comes time to hit the ball, you know, on a downhill lie over the ravine to a raised green, I tend to tighten up. And by the end of the round, I'm overswinging, I'm overdoing my backswing, my wrists are tightening, and I don't get a sense of the club head. Are there any drills or any training aids or something that can, you know, kind of get me from the practice range to those tough situations on the golf course?
Well, Don, one of the other things you'll have to realize is when you're practicing, you're very relaxed. So you don't have a real tight grip pressure. Your muscles aren't tight. You're making a nice flowing motion, turning back and through. You get out on the course, and you see out of bounds and lakes and everything, and you get a little tight. So the first thing I would do is have you check your grip pressure. Make sure your grip pressure on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lightest, 10 being the tightest, should be about a 5 or 6 in that general area. With a little lighter grip pressure, you're going to take the tension out of your forearms, and this is going to allow you to have a little more fluid motion in your swing. The other thing I would tell you to do is take a tip from David Toms this past week. He talked about all week long at the PGA that he was swinging 80% of his capability. His rhythm and timing was beautiful. I would tell you on every iron shot, if it's a 7-iron, take a 6-iron. That way that'll allow you to make this swing of a nice, smooth motion back and forth. It's going to help your tempo tremendously.
Let's see if we can sneak in one more phone call before we say goodnight. Bob in New York, fire away.
How you doing, guys?
Butch,
all of a sudden I'm having trouble with my irons. They're going real fast to the right and staying low. It only happens with the irons, my fairway woods and my tee shots straight, but the irons seem to go fast to the right. I don't know if it's my timing or what.
Bob, is this all irons or just long irons?
Mostly five and up, 5 through wedge.
Okay, well, what happens to you, Bob, is you're getting out of your tempo. When you get a wood in your hand, you can feel that you're just going to sweep the ball off the ground, or if you're teed up on a tee, it's got a tee on it, so it allows you just to hit it. What I would have you do, very similar to what I just told the gentleman before you, to have you check on your rhythm. Try and swing at about 75 or 80% of your capabilities. Now, how I would have you do that is go to the driving range and tee up about 4 or 5 balls right in a row and just walk right along hitting these balls at a nice pace. Don't think about anything. Walk up and swing. What you'll find is you'll start to find a rhythm. Once you find that rhythm, your club and ball contact's going to get so much better, and you'll start getting that ball up in the air better.
It is a great pleasure to be with you, as always. You never make me work.
Petey, I thought when the guy said it was a mental question, he was talking to you.
He was, but you jumped on the answer so quick, I figured you were in worse shape than I was. Thank you so much for